Have you ever met someone whose strength wasn't loud, but deep and unshakable? This is the story of a man like that, Samuel Carter, born in 1982 in the quiet town of Maple Ridge, Ohio. Growing up, Sam wasn't the fastest kid on the block. While others raced and shouted, he'd sit under a big oak tree, watching the clouds. His mother often said, "Sam has a quiet heart." But quiet hearts can carry heavy things. Little did she know just how heavy the things her son would carry would be. Life in Maple Ridge was predictable until Sam was 17. A sudden accident at the factory left his father unable to work, and the family's world was turned upside down. A sense of urgency and responsibility settled on Sam's young shoulders. A year later, after a long conversation with his reluctant father, Sam made a decision that would define his life. He enlisted in the United States Army. It wasn't for adventure or glory. For Sam, it was a conviction. He wanted to protect, to help, to do something that truly mattered. At Fort Benning, during basic training, Sam found his calling as a combat medic. He might not have been the strongest or the quickest, but under pressure, he was a rock. While others might falter at the sight of chaos, Sam would take a single, deep breath, analyze the situation, and act with a calm precision that was simply remarkable. His steady hands and even steadier nerve made him indispensable. In 2004, his unit was deployed to Afghanistan. This first tour was a brutal lesson in contrasts. He saw the harsh realities of war, but he also witnessed incredible moments of humanity in the most unlikely of places. There was a young Afghan boy named Amin, who would often visit the camp, flying a makeshift kite crafted from old cloth and string. One day, the kite was broken. Sam took a few moments to carefully repair it. From then on, Amin would wait for him every afternoon. His face lit up with joy, eager to show Sam just how high his repaired kite could soar against the Afghan sky. But the good moments were shadowed by terrible ones. During an ambush on a treacherous mountain pass, the vehicle carrying Sergeant Miller, one of Sam's closest friends, was hit. Without a second thought, Sam sprinted through a hail of enemy fire. He reached Miller, applied tourniquets with practiced efficiency, and single-handedly kept him alive until the evacuation helicopter arrived. Sergeant Miller survived, though his injuries were severe. Years later, a letter arrived for Sam. It read, "I never walked the same again. But thanks to you, I got to see my daughter being born." Sam folded that letter and kept it with him always. It became one of his most treasured possessions. When Sam returned home in 2006, the transition was jarring. America was moving at its usual pace, a world away from the dust, the heat, and the constant, gnawing tension of the conflict zone. The silence of the Ohio nights felt deafening. He started sleeping lightly, his senses always on high alert. He developed habits he never spoke about, like always choosing a seat in a restaurant where his back was against a wall. The war had come home with him, in ways no one could see. Despite this internal struggle, he felt a pull, a sense of unfinished business. He volunteered for a second deployment. This second tour was longer, more complex, and emotionally heavier. Sam was now a seasoned medic, tasked with training new soldiers and making life-or-death decisions on a regular basis. One cold winter night, his unit was called to a nearby village that had been attacked. Amid the chaos and devastation, he found a familiar face. It was Amin, the boy with the kite, now a teenager of 14. He was badly injured. Sam worked quickly to stabilize him, staying by his side through the long, dark night, murmuring words of comfort in the rudimentary Pashto he'd learned to better connect with the locals. Amin survived, but the image of his eyes weary and far too old for his young face was etched into Sam's memory forever. In 2010, Sam's active service came to an end, and he returned to Maple Ridge for good. The welcome from his family and friends was warm, but readjusting to civilian life was harder than he ever imagined. The quiet felt suffocating. The days felt empty, structureless. He tried taking classes at the community college and worked for a while at the local hardware store, but a piece of him was missing. He felt adrift. Then one afternoon, walking through town, he saw a simple sign posted on a bulletin board: volunteers needed to support recently returned veterans. In that moment, his life found a new direction. At the community center, he found himself surrounded by stories that echoed his own. He met young men and women feeling lost and confused, parents trying to reconnect with their families, people who felt like strangers in their own lives. Sam didn't offer grand speeches or easy answers. He became a mentor, an informal counselor, a friend. Sometimes the most powerful thing he did was simply sit in silence with another veteran, a shared unspoken understanding passing between them that said, "You are not alone." This quiet support grew into something bigger. Over time, Sam became the driving force behind a new program they called New Bridges. The goal was to help veterans find meaningful work, access therapy, and rebuild their connections with the community. It was a slow, difficult process, filled with endless paperwork, funding shortages, and frustrating meetings. But Sam's quiet persistence was contagious. His determination inspired local business owners, schools, and churches to get involved. The entire town started to rally behind the cause. In 2017, the dream became a reality. The town of Maple Ridge officially inaugurated the Veterans Community Center. At the opening ceremony, Sam tried to stay in the background, but the community wouldn't have it. They insisted he be the one to cut the ribbon. As applause filled the air, Sam felt a profound sense of humility and pride. When he stepped up to the microphone, his words were simple and from the heart. He said, "I'm not a hero. The real heroes are the ones who start over again every single day, even when it's hard. If this center helps just one of us find a new path forward, then all of this will have been worth it." In the years that followed, Sam was a constant, steady presence at the center. He was always there, listening, guiding, organizing first aid classes, and supporting anyone going through a tough time. He rarely spoke in detail about his own experiences in the war, but he shared just enough to let others know he understood their struggle. The children in town knew him as a kind figure, a sort of town uncle. The veterans saw him as a brother, and his family, who had once feared losing him to the war, finally saw him smile more often, his quiet heart finally finding its peace. Not in forgetting the past, but in building a better future for others. Samuel Carter never won any flashy medals or sought the spotlight. His legacy wasn't written in headlines, but in the lives he touched. He was a man who served his country with honor and then returned home to dedicate his life to a different kind of service, healing, uniting, and rebuilding the lives of those who had served alongside him. His story is a powerful reminder that true strength often speaks in a whisper, and the greatest acts of heroism can happen right here at home. Thank you so much for watching. If you were moved by Sam's story, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories about everyday heroes. We'll see you in the next one.